So I got a question from Ethan, and he says, how can I find other high vibe people? How can I network with, become friends with, meet and hang out with other people like me? And the reason I really like this question, because firstly, your heart and head are in the right place. You understand, maybe you've watched some of my other videos or my superhuman training or something. You understand that in order to raise your vibrations, a really important part of that is hanging out with other people who are trying to do the same thing, because like you'll become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So how can you find other high vibe people? Good question. Right, let's just get straight into it, shall we? And by the way, if you do want to learn how to raise your vibrations, I do have a masterclass training here on YouTube. There's no catch. You can find the link in the description. Wow, that sun has just become very bright. I might have to close the curtain. And you can find the link in the description. You can watch the training. It's free. And I think you're going to enjoy that. So one of the first things you need to know is that and this is the reason it's quite a funny question, because when you start doing the right things, when you start raising your vibrations from the inside, you will naturally find, your experience will be that people will come towards you. You won't really have to find them as such. However, and it's a big however, because there are exceptions to this. If you live in the middle of nowhere, if you work from home or for yourself, let's say, let's say you're more introverted, you're less social, you have, let's say, less of a social circle to begin with, it's a bit harder for you, especially if you don't actively or regularly do things like go out to join meetup groups, to meet people, to socialize. It's harder for these encounters to happen because you're not out in the world, you're sort of in your own world, in your house, let's say, or you keep to yourself. However, there are a lot of things you can do. And you might be thinking, especially if you're an introvert like I am, you might be thinking, well, it's difficult. I don't want to go and put myself out there in the world, and it's kind of like this, awkward thing. It doesn't have to be awkward, because here's what you need to do. As you raise your vibrations and you start doing the things you love doing, you will, at some point, unless you're already there now, you will have some kind of idea like what you enjoy doing, the things that really light you up and that you really enjoy, doing with your time. So when you have that, let's say, even if it's something random, like, I don't know, you like climbing or playing an instrument, there are, even if you have to drive or, access them or go to them, there will be groups where other people who enjoy the same things are meeting, like meetup groups, clubs, training, classes, whatever. Even for random hobbies that you might not think have an audience, but they do. So really, it's a question of kind of putting yourself out there, even just a tiny bit, just commit to doing like, I don't know, one event a month, one meetup class a month, let's say, where you go and meet people who enjoy the same things that you do. And you really won't need to do this very often. Let's say if you go once or twice a month, eventually not eventually, but almost immediately, if there's someone there that you vibe with, it'll be an instant connection, essentially. You can just get their contact details, and then suddenly, boom, you can call them up next week, say, hey, do you want to go for a walk? And if you, connect and if you get on, then suddenly you have a friend who is doing the same things that you're doing. They are high vibe, and, it was easy as that. So it's really a question of trying to shift from the things that you currently enjoy doing on your own. Just try and gently shift a little bit towards doing them out in the world. At least, at the very least, doing them somewhere where you have the chance to meet someone else, where other people are doing the same thing. Even if, let's say, if you really enjoy reading, okay, I'm sure there's a book club near you. So just pop along once a month, or whenever you can, to the book club, and then suddenly you're going to be surrounded by people who love reading just as much as you do. In the same respect with high vibe stuff, when you're trying to raise your vibrations, there are so many events you could go to: spiritual conferences, meetups, philosophical talks, psychology meetups. It really depends like which area you're specifically focused on, but there's all kinds of stuff you could do, all kinds of things you can join. And by the way, it doesn't have to be in person at first. There are countless, groups and meetups, like I've discussed, online, even more actually than in person. So especially if you're isolated, or you live kind of in the middle of nowhere, basically. This is what I get a lot of questions, talking about this. They say, I live in the middle of nowhere. How do I do these things? How do I meet people? Well, you don't have to meet them in person at first. You can firstly meet these people online in, let's say, Facebook, Reddit, Telegram groups, have discussions with them, get to know them, do a quick video call, do an audio call. And if you vibe with them and they, live in the same country as you, ideally, then you can arrange to go and meet them. Obviously, be safe, practice common sense and safety and everything like that. But usually if you vibe with someone, you will get a sense of the energy, and especially if you have a video call, right, you're going to pretty much know, what they're all about. So all that to say that you can then arrange to meet people. And you'll be surprised at how easy this can be. You can literally just go and introduce yourself in, let's say, a spiritual group or a high vibe group or a Starseed light worker group, whatever the case may be. Introduce yourself, tell your story, and you'll usually find that people are very kind in these communities. People will reach out to you, and especially if you honestly and openly share your story and your personality and really get that out there, people will basically come to you. They'll comment, maybe they'll message you and say, hey, I resonated with your story. I like what you're doing. I'm interested in the same things. And suddenly you start a conversation, and then things go from there. So it's not a case of like you have to go out there and search for these people. Really, all you have to do is just to put yourself out there very gently and effortlessly in these small ways, and then the people that you want to hang out with will essentially come towards you. Now, there's some other things you can do. Okay, so you can reach out specifically to people that you want to hang out with. Whether it be influencers or just people that you read in the comment sections, just send them a message, especially if it's on Instagram or something, or Twitter or Facebook. Send them a DM, send them a message, say, hey, I'd love to chat more about this with you. It's a relatively small world with the advent of the internet. So people that you otherwise would never meet, really, you can easily connect with and meet and message and arrange to meet. So yeah, put yourself out there. I mean, even, you can even message me. I'd love to have a chat with you if you're interested in spirituality and reality, consciousness and stuff like this. I love discussing this stuff. But really just anyone you want to talk to, they are out there. I promise you they are out there. You just need to put yourself out there and allow the communication to happen. Because if you're just in a house in the countryside and you never really post to these groups online, you just kind of read what other people are saying, and you never message anyone, and you never go to any groups or meetups, it's very hard for you to meet people because you're not there's no opportunity for the meeting to happen. You need to give the universe a way to actually create these experiences and these situations. And it doesn't have to be hard, like I said. So there is one more thing you can do, and that is to visualize it happening. So, and you don't have to do this every day, because with social stuff and meeting high vibe people, you can very quickly actually book out your whole calendar with social events. It's very easy to suddenly find yourself having too many social things to go to, too many things, too many conversations, meetups, events taking up your time, and then that can take away from your other stuff, your meditation practice, your work even, or health, or whatever it is you're doing with your time. So take it slow, that you'll find this works quite well. So visualize maybe every other day or every week, visualize yourself in a situation with the people that you want to be hanging out with, the high vibe people, and whatever it is you might be doing, hiking or talking, dancing, exploring, walking along the beach, having conversations, whatever it is that you imagine yourself doing with these people, you need to visualize it. But really, just going back to basics here, what I would say is the easiest way is just to do the things that you enjoy doing with your time, but do them in a way where other people could be doing them at the same time. And this happens naturally for most hobbies anyway. Like, for example, I enjoy bouldering, rock climbing. So every time I go to the gym, I'm surrounded by people, by definition, who love bouldering. So it's very easy to meet people who like the same thing I do. But with some hobbies, obviously it's a bit harder because there might not be as many groups where people do it all together. So it really depends on the hobby a little bit. But that being said, like I said, online, there's countless groups and communities for any interest. And to be honest, going back to your question, Ethan, your question was how to find high vibe people. The community of high vibe people is actually absolutely enormous. So, and it's growing every day, especially with everything that's going on. There's an enormous awakening happening. So the amount of people who are either high vibe or trying to get to be high vibe, they're maybe at the start of their journey, that number of people is massive. It's not like some niche, unusual hobby that you need to try and somehow like search for people that are interested in it as well. The amount of people interested in becoming high vibe or spirituality is absolutely huge. So in a way, that's good for you, because it means that there's more people around to potentially meet and hang out with. And by the way, I do also get that in some countries, in some cities, certain areas of certain countries, you're going to have more or less spiritual people. And specifically in some places, you might even have very few high vibe people. I totally get that. And in that case, maybe be a bit more open to going outside of that area, or even, depending on your situation. If it was me, I would look towards moving out of that area and moving towards an area where it's full of high vibe people, and it's full of the things you love doing, But of course, the situations are very personal, so I don't know your exact situation. Yeah, so I hope this makes sense. By the way, please, if you do want to raise your vibrations, which, by the way, will make everything here easier, and these people will magnetically come towards you, watch my free video on YouTube. The link's in the description. Or it might be in the pinned comment. And it's this video. It's about 45 minutes long, I think. It explains how to raise your vibrations in a step-by-step action plan. So go and check that out. I really think you're going to enjoy that. And by the way, just comment what you think about this. Have you found it hard to meet high vibe people? What would you do? Maybe let's make this into a bit of a challenge. Like, if you had 30 days to meet 3 high vibe people, and you had to do it, right? How would you do it? What would be your plan?